Well, welcome to Romans, the Romans Road to Hope, and we are at verse 31 of Romans chapter 8. We've been looking at the hope that God gives to us through this wonderful passage of the Bible, Romans 8. And if it's the whole passage is a wonderful passage, it is, the whole chapter is, verses 31 to 39 are absolutely the epitome of just, I mean, every Christian, if you are a Christian, you need to learn this stuff. And if you're not a Christian, I hope that you'll listen now and for another couple of weeks as we look at what this is. So what can we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? God, if God be for you, wow. If God is for us, who can be against us? Bob Dylan did a song, With God on Our Side, which was bitter and angry and brilliant, brilliant song. And it's talking about those generals and politicians who always say, well, God is with us and God's going to bless and all that kind of stuff. And I think that is just deeply wrong. People claiming God for their own particular cause. But here, this is different. Paul has argued that God is for his people. So the us here are surely God works for the good of those who love him. And this is talking about God's people. If God is for us, then who will be against us? Now, initially, I actually recorded this earlier, and as with the last Coffee with Job, I recorded it all wrong. And I did verses 31 and 32. I'm just going to do verse 31 today, because this idea of God being for us, what does that mean? Who can be against us? Well, how would you answer that question? The answer is there's a lot that can be against you, a huge amount. The Christian life is not an easy life. The devil, hell, the powers of this world, our own sin. Ephesians 6:12, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. The Christian has a lot of enemies. There's a lot of things that are against us. When you become a Christian, it's not like everything goes for you and you float to heaven on a bed of ease. When you become a Christian, sometimes you're faced with incredible opposition. Opposition from within your own family, opposition from the world, spiritual opposition. I don't say this a lot, but I think several times in my life I've experienced an awareness of the power of evil, which was quite overwhelming. I understand the phrase, the terrors of the night. I understand the phrase, the powers of this dark world and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Now, some people overtalk that. They talk too much about the devil. Some people mock. C.S. Lewis points out that these are the two things that should be avoided. But there is no question that there are spiritual forces of evil. I remember a psychiatrist once being asked, well, what about this person and the way he's behaved? What would you explain that? He just said, evil. It's just evil. And sometimes when you're aware of who is against you, you're a bit like Elijah's servant looking round and seeing the king sending soldiers against him and being overwhelmed by that. And then he's told to look to the hills and there's the kind of heavenly host. Well, as I say, sometimes you do get overwhelmed by the forces that you face. And I love this. Psalm 23, verse 4. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff comfort me. Or Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Isaiah 40. The nations are as a drop in the bucket and are counted as small dust in the balance. And then Psalm 124, and this is the old Scottish metrical version. Now Israel may say, and that truly, if that the Lord had not been on our side. The Lord is on our side. So when we talk about if God is for us, who can be against us? The answer is, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of difficulties, overwhelming, until we see God being for us. And what Paul is saying is, if God is for you, then all these things are overcomable. We are more than conquerors. These are relatively trivial. I think, you know what I think the problem is for a lot of us as Christians? We don't really think that God is for us. We think we have to earn it. There's 101 other things that are going on in our heads. But to really grasp and get that God is for you is wonderful. And by the way, if you're not a Christian, you need God to be for you. Don't just blasely say, oh, well, of course God is for me. No, he's not. You're the enemy of God. And yet it was while we were still his enemies that Christ died for us. So I'm going to leave you before this tempest kicks in, this storm kicks in, and we get soaked out here. But see you tomorrow for Coffee with Job. See you next week, the same time for Romans 8, and we'll go on to look at how Paul builds on this statement of if God is for you, then who can be against you? And how he gives the reason for that and how we know that God is for us. But God bless you and see you then. Bye. I said bye. I'm not saying bye. I want you to listen to this. I've got this great piece of music from City Alight. God is for us. Just listen to it and rejoice in it. God bless you. See you tomorrow or next week. Bye. Again.
Battle, we won't fear the night. We will walk the valley with you by our side. You will go before us, you will lead the way. We have found a refuge only you can save. Sing with joy now, our God is for us. The Father's love is a strong and mighty fortress. Raise your voice now, no love is greater. Who can stand against us if our God is for us? Even when I stumble, even when I fall, even when I turn back, still your love is sure. You will not abandon, you will not forsake. You will cheer me on with never-ending grace. Sing with joy now, our God is for us. The Father's love is a strong and mighty fortress. Raise your voice now, no love is greater. Who can stand against us if our God is for us? Separate us, hell and death will not defeat us. He who gave his Son to free us holds me in his love. Neither height nor depth can separate us. Hell and death will not defeat us. He who gave his Son to free us holds me in his love. Sing with joy now, our God is for us. The Father's love is a strong and mighty fortress. Raise your voice.